And the title is Leading Without a Title. So that this is a prepare to speak professionally. And the purpose of the project is for the member to practice developing and presenting a longer speech. So somewhere between 10 and 13 minutes. Now, some believe that you have born leaders. Some believe that they will never be able to lead. What makes someone want to lead? Throughout Shed's short life and observing the many organizations he's been a part of, I think where would we be without someone stepping up and leading? So here to share his level 5 elective project on a strategic relationships path, Leading Without a Title. Please help me welcome our immediate past district director, distinguished Toastmaster, Shed Mayberry.
Thank you, Barb, for that great introduction. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, my speech tonight is to engage you for a certain amount of time on a topic that I'm truly passionate about. And the one thing that I'm really passionate about throughout my short 54 years is leadership. I truly believe that I was put on this earth to be a leader, but not with a title. I love leading and everyone not knowing who I am. And that's the way I love to just step into a room. Leading without a title is the title of my speech today. As Barb spoke about, have you ever heard someone approach you and just say, I will never be a leader, or I can't lead an organization? Have you ever heard someone just say, I'm not a leader? I truly believe we all are leaders at some point in our lives. And that is my topic tonight. So think about that as you go through and you ever hear someone saying they're not a leader, or if you happen to say that you cannot lead, think about you are always a leader. And to lead without a title is probably the most critical leader that we need in our organization. The ones that are behind the scenes, the leaders that make the water go, that makes the boat float. Now, you can sit at the head of the boat and think that you're the leader, but the individuals behind you are the ones truly doing the work. Some of those leaders in our great history in America, think about George Washington, the great famous picture of him on the front of that boat. He's the leader, he's the title person for the United States at that time. But it was the soldiers behind him, the officers, that were truly the true leaders. Without a title, they did not know who they were, but without them, George Washington would not be on that boat leading the way. Or if he was, it might have been going down in the water. And we don't want that in our history. So just think about George Washington. He's a leader with a title, but those behind him were the ones truly leading without being recognized in their history in the United States of America. Another great leader in our history, Martin Luther King. Yes, he was the leader that everyone knew about, but think about if he was to step into Kansas City and there was no one to speak to. It took the leaders to go out to the community to get the organizers and bring them out to hear his great speeches as he went across the United States and gave those great speeches that he gave. It was the members that spreaded his message without a title that guided him to the level that he was at in this great history that we talked about. Harriet Tubman, the Underground Railroad. How many of you knew that she was a spy for the United States Army in the Civil War? I did not know that until I actually looked her up a couple of years ago. That was actually my job, not a spy, but I was like a scout in the United States Army. I said, wow, she actually did the job that I did in the United States Army. Harriet Tubman, everyone knows about the Underground Railroad, did not lose one person that she led across the United States to freedom. It was the leaders that helped her along those journeys, that supported her in making her, once again, the level of recognition that she was. She was the leader with the title, but it was the ones without the title that made the mission happen. Making safe passage for all of those slaves to get through and to be recognized for not losing one individual through the railroad at that time was a remarkable feat. Born leaders or leaders being developed. That was what I thought about when I thought about this speech. Everyone thinks about an individual. You know, you came into this world, you just came in here, you was a born leader. And others think about, oh, they're quiet, they can't lead, but we develop you into those leaders. Those are the two types that we think about. But I truly believe everyone is born a leader. Think about when you're first born, as a little baby, still crawling on the carpet. Who is leading you? How many of you are the oldest kid in your family? I am. So I thought about, I was the leader in my family because I was the oldest and everyone had to come behind me and do what I do, or at least try to do what I do and everything like that. But if you're a middle child, who led you? Who was the example for you to take on? And then eventually, sometime the middle child end up leading the family and going forward. But even as a child, we're born leaders. As you're going around in that circle, following the next child around, and the first time that child pulls up on something and stands up, guess what? You just led the rest of those kids to do the same thing. You are a leader. And whether or not you was not the first child to stand up, you still led, because once you stood up, you probably did something differently, reached out to a toy, got your bottle in hand. But every other child saw what you was doing and wanted to be exactly like you. When I first stepped into my first Toastmaster role, and I came to my first Toastmaster meeting outside of Manhattan, and I stepped into Kansas City, I thought about, this is outside of my normal environment. And everyone said, Shed, we just love what you and your wife is doing with Division T. Now, I knew nothing about all of this area director, division director positions. I was just there to represent and to give a speech for a speech contest because I love Toastmasters. But to be a leader, I was without a title at that time. But everyone in my area at that time was like, Shed, we're going to follow you from Manhattan to Kansas City to compete in this competition. That has truly been a leader without a title. And now I'm going back to, everything is turning back in circles. Stepping down as a district director, I'm going back to being a leader without a title. And I want to be here to listen and educate those leaders that are coming up with their titles. Leaders in the workplace. If you're a leader in the workplace, think about, are you a title person or you one without a title? When I retired from the military, I was up here in my profession where everyone looked at me as a certain sergeant first class, you're a leader. Coming back into the civilian world, I started at the lowest level. But it's all about the leadership skills that I had throughout my career that carried me into the civilian world. Now, even though I'm not the most paid or the most highest in the title, everyone in the hospital at Fort Riley knows who I am, because I speak with integrity, and no matter who the commander is, I'm there to support him, but at the same time, I'm supporting him by leading without that title. He knows that I'm a member of certain organizations. I'm a member of the Fort Riley Retiree Council, that is the liaison with the hospital and the community. That is also leading without a title in his eyes because he communicates with me. But at the same time, we talk about Toastmasters and how can we make our organization better in the military. So we're trying to do that with Toastmasters in the military. But it's all about leading without a title, speaking to individuals about what you bring to the table. I heard an individual the other day went to a club and she said, I never thought that I could lead an organization until she saw certain individuals do certain things in her club. Now she's hoping to be an area director next year. That is leading without a title. Be an assistant, get out there share your experience, and enjoy the world that we're living in. Living is getting out there, getting outside your norm. I always tell individuals, they're afraid of Toastmasters. Oh, I can never do public speaking. For me, public speaking is living. I'm not the best speaker, but I love getting in front of the audience, spreading my message, and then they come along for the journey. It's about that leading without a title that we also have to be compassionate about and things of that nature like that. So develop those leaders. They may be quiet, but they're sitting back learning and researching for when they are given that title or when they are thrust into the spotlight, they can do so in an effective manner. I met an individual who sat around for 1 year in Toastmasters. And I asked him, I said, why aren't you getting out there giving speeches? Why aren't you being a club officer? And then finally the next year, when he finally stepped up, I say, you're doing awesome. That's what we want. He said, Shed, the first year, I wanted to observe. I wanted to get all of the things under my belt before I stepped into a role and to lead individuals. But that first year, everyone thought he was never a leader, but he was truly a leader because he listened and he took in those things those leaders that was out there talking, he took it in continuously. So both types, leading with a title and leading without a title, think about which one you are. Does it take for you to have a title to step forward? I hope not. All right. Because even now that I've lost my title, I still plan to be truly active in our district. I appreciate those that did step forward and have a title behind their name, because those are the ones that individuals will reach out to communicate with. But it's those leaders that are without a title that you can reach back to and get guidance or mentoring from or have assistance from that will help you along your journey. So remember those as you go through your year, 2 years, 5 years as a leader with a title, and think about those individuals that are there with you. I've worked with many individuals throughout my Toastmaster and my military career. And I love for those individuals to say, Shed, I just love to be in the background. Come on the journey with me. Shed, I'm not a leader. Come on the journey with me, and you will see that you truly are a leader. Someone is always watching, and they will select you to come along that journey. No matter what it is, always step forward, or not step forward into the spotlight, but just come along that journey and help them. So think about it again as I close out my speech today. Are you a leader with a title, or you're a leader behind the scenes? Whether either one of those you are truly a leader, whether it's born or developed. Thank you for your time.